I would like to call the March meeting to order. Mr. Stevens, this is March, so you have March,
I got the whole March?
the whole March.
All right, whole March. Okay, good evening, everyone. Due to the passage of House Bill 197 and the response to the COVID-19 public health crisis and the governor's order prohibiting mass gatherings, the Board of Education meeting will be virtual. You may view the internet live stream http://board.bedfordschools.org or Spectrum Cable TV channel 1025. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Stevens. Can we stand for the Pledge of Allegiance? I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic
One nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty, justice for all.
Thank you. Mr. Zagravic, are you taking the roll?
And with your permission, I may, Madam President. Mrs. Patterson,
Present.
Mrs. Boynton,
Here.
Mr. Tench,
Here.
Mr. Stevens,
Here.
Mr. Kennedy.
Thank you. I know I did it a little out of order, but. All right. Superintendent's recommendation. Dr. Selico, you don't have anything?
No, Mrs. Patterson, we will
Just
defer
go
to, Mr.
Okay.
Grabick.
Mr. Zagravic, please.
Thank you, Madam President. Just one agenda item for your consideration this evening, and I do appreciate you doing it at this meeting. We didn't have our resolution available a couple of weeks ago because we didn't know how much money we were going to have. By passing this tonight, or at least considering it, will allow us to meet the Ohio Schools Council timeline for submittal of the resolution, which is tomorrow.
All right, I need a motion for 2.01.
So moved.
It's been moved by Mr. Kennedy,
Second.
second by Mr. Stevens. Any questions? Hearing none, roll call, please.
Mrs. Boynton,
Aye.
Mr. Tench,
Aye.
Mr. Stevens,
Aye.
Mr. Kennedy.
Aye.
Mrs. Patterson.
Aye, 5-0. Thank you, board.
Thank you, Madam President, members of the board.
Presentations and awards. Dr. Selica.
Thank you, Mrs. Patterson. Good evening, board. Good evening to those who are watching. This evening, we have two presentations for the board. The first will be by Mrs. Winston and Mrs. Rivera from Central Primary School, and after them will be Mrs. Street for Columbus Intermediate. So, Mrs. Winston, if you have the floor. Thank you.
Thank you. Good evening, President Patterson, members of the board, Superintendent Selico, and Cabinet. We are so glad to be here, so thank you for having us. And I'm even more thrilled that my partner is here, my wonderful Dean of Students. So thank you for being here, Ms. Rivera. So as we go through our presentation, just for the sake of time, because we're going to try to go through this very efficiently and within 15 minutes, right, Dr. Selico, we're going to try to move. But pride, tradition, achievement, that's who we are. And so you know who we are. And so we're not going to go through the mission and vision statement, but just know at Central Primary School, we are in alignment with our district mission and our goals and our CCIP plan. And we are trying to do everything that we can to improve student achievement. You can click over. So what are we doing? We're teaching students. And we have our CCIP goals that are around language arts and math. And we want to implement evidence-based practices to really improve student achievement. So our literacy block is 120 minutes. And within that literacy block, we include various practices and routines so that we are allowed and able to implement evidence-based practices. We utilize various programs, as you can see, and one in particular that we're going to talk about even a little more is just this iReady program. In our math block, we have a 90-minute math block, and we do some interesting practices and routines with regard to math that you can see, and the various programs that we utilize for math. So how do we teach? Now, this is the exciting part, because we have learned so much around universal design for learning. And it's all about equity, right? And meeting people where they are and giving people what they need. And so with this UDL that we have learned about, we are really implementing more practices where we are representing the learning for students so that they're able to engage more. And when they're able to engage more, then they're able to express what they know in multiple ways. UDL is going to save our lives. It is incredible. My team at Central works so hard. We are in it. You know, we had a visit from Dr. Barron because she is helping us to facilitate this UDL along with our curriculum department. And I was so pleased that she could walk in those classrooms and she could see representation and engagement happening. Now we're going to work on some expression. We're going to work on those things because we're learning how to allow kids to express themselves in multiple ways, and especially when we're talking about assessments. So just to give you a little update with regard to in-person learning, it's going well, believe it or not, it's going well. And our little ones are keeping on their masks and they're staying socially distanced with a lot of gentle, friendly reminders. And so I have about 200 kids in person. And as you can see, the numbers that are broken down for each grade level in the classes that I have. Remote learning is going the same way, going very well. I have about 245 students that are attending remote learning. So every year I come to you before you, I present you with data information. And while I probably didn't want to share much data information, I want you to see what we're seeing. So this is some map comparison data in the area of reading. And what I want you to do for me is I really want you to think about triangulation of data. So I want you to, when you look at this data information, I don't want you to come to a conclusion, because this year, like no other, we have to look at multiple sources of data, which include local things that we have, state information that we have, but it also includes teacher information as well as having conversations with students. So when you glance at this reading data, what you'll probably see is that probably around 50%, give or take, of our students are performing below the 40th percentile. I included numbers so that you not only see percentage, but you also see numbers and what that looks like. So let's move to the next slide. So I talked to you a little bit about iReady, and I know you've probably heard about it already. And it's a great reading program that students are using. And we love it so much because students take a diagnostic assessment, and then this program actually tailors their learning path, right? So I always ask kids, well, how you liking iReady? How's it going? And these are some of the statements because they really love it. Well, let me show you some data from iReady. But again, when you're looking at this data, I want you to think about triangulation of data. So I'm not going to jump to many conclusions right now. So this is overall our school. And so you can see that pyramid, that tiered pyramid. And when you look at that green and that yellow and the red, we want most of our kids to fall in the green area, right? So let's take this apart just a little bit and let's look at kindergarten. So look at that. So we have about 70% of our kindergartners falling in the green area, the tier 1. And this program is all around foundational skills and reading. So look at that yellow area. So let's look at first grade for a second. So what are you noticing? Well, you don't have to answer. That's a rhetorical question, because you're probably seeing that, now we're getting some students that are falling in the top tier, right? You also see that that middle tier, we have more students in that area. We don't want that though, right? But we're not going to jump to conclusions. So let's go to second grade. Oh, yeah, I don't want it to take your breath away, but that top area, it's a little larger, right? And we still have many students that are falling in that area, the middle area, the tier 2 area. And I just had a staff meeting with all of my staff just Monday, and we looked at this information. But it's going to be so important that teachers get involved at locating these children. Who are these kids that are falling in yellow? Who are they that are falling in red? And what do you have to say about them? And what do they have to say about taking this assessment? Remember, all these assessments were given at home. That's very impactful with regard to information. So let's look at third grade for a second. When you see that, that literally takes your breath away. I saw you, Dr. Selico. I saw your eyes. But again, I don't want you to jump to conclusions. I had a wonderful conversation with one of my third grade teachers. After looking at this, after the staff meeting, I said, so tell me, what do you think? So we looked at her data together, and she said, you know, Mrs. Winston, you have 9 to 10 of my students that are falling in the red. But my information, I'm only showing 3 students that are really struggling with phonics. So tell me what happened. Well, when I talked to Johnny, he told me he rushed through that test. So you see the importance of triangulation of data. But I'm going to be honest with you always, and I'm going to show you information that we're looking at. So I thought it was important to share that. So we can move on to the next slide. My staff has been incredible. They work so hard. Love them dearly. And I hope that they've tuned in tonight because we are so proud of them and we appreciate everything that they've done. And teaching virtually, it just has taken us to a different level. So know that they work hard, know that they're trying their best, know that we are doing everything we can to improve achievement in the situation that we are in now.
Great, thank you. Well, I get the really fun part because I now get to tell you about all the really fun things that we're doing here at Central. So we have a very strong PBIS committee. We have a very strong PTA, and we've been working really hard to make sure that whether we are online or in person, that we are always representing our students and our parents and our children and our teachers. We put in a staff of the month to make sure that teachers felt welcomed and that they felt appreciated. So some of our staff members have been Ms. Marmash and Ms. Gansler and Mr. Teskey so far, and they received a Jeans Pass or a staff meeting pass just so that these people are recognized by their peers and they're nominated by their peers. And then we put their name out front so that people know what a good job they're doing and that their peers are recognizing what they're doing. So we have a little video for you, and we're only going to play just a few minutes of it because during Black History Month, we had the Barack Obama Challenge. And one of the culminating activities of the Barack Obama Challenge was our Jeopardy game. So we just want to show you a quick 3-minute clip, and I see that we're in the time frame, so we're going to be able to do that for you today because we want you to see what our kids and our teachers are doing.
Good afternoon, everyone. Good afternoon. So it's Mrs. Winston, and I'm so glad to be here. We are having our very first Barack Obama Black History Challenge Finals today. And I'm so excited about our candidates, our participants, and I'm so glad that you're here too. So welcome, welcome. Sit back, enjoy, and listen. And I'm going to turn this over to Mr. Johnson and Ms. Mechanic.
Once again, thank you all for joining us this afternoon. On behalf of the Black History, Committee, I want to thank all of our participants. In a school of almost 500 students, we had almost 200 students participating in our Black History Challenge. We started this on President's Day, and we titled it the Barack Obama Black History Challenge to recognize our 44th president, President Barack Obama. We narrowed our field down through classroom challenges and then into grade level challenges, and we have 4 students now who are representing each grade level. In kindergarten, we have Andrew. In first grade, we have Kylie. In second grade, we have Lucy. And in third grade, we have Alex. Just a reminder, anyone who participated will receive a prize. There's a prize for these 4 students because they are being recognized as grade level winners. And then today we will be finding a grand prize winner. So this is a big deal, and boys and girls, we are so thankful because this reflects hard work. At Central School, that's our priority, hard work. So I'm going to explain the game rules. They are pretty simple. Andrew, you gotta wait just a second. I want to explain the game rules. That's okay. I want to explain the game rules. Students will go in order from kindergarten, first, second, and third. They will pick a category and a number. If they get the answer correct, they are awarded that number amount. If they get it wrong, there is no problem. They don't lose the points. They just don't gain those points. Okay? Students can pick from any category, any number amount. At the end of every round, we will tell you the scores so that we can keep a track of who is winning. All right? The students know that they're going to be great sports. There is no cheering or discouraging things. They're great sports. So they already know that they're winners. You can see there's a little bit of anxiety and nervousness already. We're going to take a giant breath and relax. All right, boys and girls, we're going to begin the game. Our categories are George Washington Carver, Harriet Tubman, Barack Obama, Rosa Parks, and Martin Luther King Jr. So we'll start with our kindergartner, Andrew. Please pick a category and a number amount.
Martin Luther King 500.
Okay, Martin Luther King for 500. I will read the question. Andrew, just wait until I read it, okay?
That's a kindergarten.
What is the name of the famous speech that Martin Luther King Jr. gave?
I had a dream.
See if that's correct. It was called the I Have a Dream speech. He gave the speech on the steps of the Lincoln Memorial in Washington, D.C. in 1963. Good job, Andrew. Our next contestant is Kylie. Pick a category and a number amount.
Barack Obama 500.
Barack Obama for 500. What job did President Obama have before he became the president?
Senator.
He was a senator. He represented the state of Illinois, where he and his family lived at the time.
Okay. Thank you. So that was really, really fun. And if you want to see the rest, I know it's attached to our presentation, but I won't keep you in suspense because the kindergartner won. So they did awesome. He got all of his answers correct. They had studied really, really hard. And then when the questions were presented, they were able to all give right answers. So they did fantastic. So this is one of the most, I know Miss Winston loves this. This is the most exciting thing for her that's happening that could ever happen at Central. This is our quiet dismissal. So if you've ever been to an elementary school during dismissal, it can look a little chaotic. Actually, it can look really chaotic. I see Miss Patterson shaking her head. So this program was brought to us by one of our teachers. And so what we're able to do is display this chart, and every student has a number and or knows their bus number. We also display any changes that are happening throughout the day. And then when their number lights up or their bus number lights up, they simply stand up, leave the class, and quietly walk to their bus. And this at Central this year has changed our lives. She says, it has saved our lives. No more, we don't see the running to the buses. All the staff is monitoring. We know where all the kids are. This has really, really, really helped us. So we're very, very grateful for this. And we were excited to implement this with only half of our building this year, so we can work out some of the kinks, and can't wait for hopefully for next year when all of our students are back and we can dismiss all 500 with the same system. So this is our community stakeholders page. We were lucky enough to work with local authors this year who provided us a read aloud of their book, A is for Africa. We also had Miss Annie Rose come to the building, and she provided a beautiful balloon display for us. And we were able to hand out some snacks for our staff. And she provided this really cute St. Patrick's Day rainbow. And thank you for listening.
Well, thank you. Very informative. I'm surprised the kindergartner won, but that is great. That is great.
Yeah, so thank you. So if you have any questions for us, we will happily answer them for you. Thanks for your
Questions,
attention.
board members? Mr. Tench, question?
No, just a well done presentation. Being a graduate from Central, I'm glad to see that they're making strides in the right direction, and looking forward to down the years how it keeps going.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, thank you.
Thank you.
Mrs. Street, if you'd like to step up to the podium, thank you.
All right. Good evening, President Patterson, Vice President Boynton, and to the board and the cabinet. I am so excited to present. This is my first year presenting, so I'm a little excited to let you know some of the things that are going on in Columbus, and also some of the things that we also need to work on as we move along in our future years. So again, these are our taglines, our mission statement, vision statement, and our core values. And all of the staff at Columbus are aware of this. And this is what we work hard to strive to meet these all three different categories. Awards, honorees, and recognitions. So I'm excited because we had an opportunity to do a positive office referral system that ties into our PBIS plan. And since the beginning of the year, we have been able to identify, well, I would say probably since September and on, we have been able to identify some students for positive office referrals because they demonstrated our ROAR, our PBIS ROAR. So what that means is these students were able to get phone calls home to parents. They were also able to get like a certificate, and just to let the parents know, because usually when you call home, parents always think that it's always something negative. So they were very proud to hear positive things about their students. We also had attendance awards, which was short-term and long-term. They kind of broke me down for short-term, but the long-term we had for virtual, and this was from the beginning of the year until Christmas break. We had students that had perfect attendance every day, logging on virtually and being engaged with their teachers and getting their work completed. We had more kids than five. So we had to put their names in a bucket and pull. And each one of the kids that we pulled, they received a $30 GameStop gift card because we know that's what they're interested in. So they were very excited about that. Well, some of the kids were like, Ms. Street, can we have a short-term attendance incentive? So we did do a short-term attendance incentive, which was from November to Christmas break. And those kids got Chick-fil-A gift cards. We had a lot of them that met that requirement. So we also had to do a random pick, and they got Chick-fil-A gift cards. When we were looking and talking about our remote and hybrid learning for Columbus, as you probably all know, Columbus was the building that had the least of kids coming in face-to-face. So we had 34% that are remote. That's supposed to say 34% in person. It's supposed to be flipped, and then it's 74% remote. So again, 34% that's in person and 74% remote. And we do have struggles. I'm not going to sit here and feed you fluff. We do have struggles with some kids getting them to log in, especially right now. We have a few that are just losing momentum, won't log in. But we have been reaching out to them. We monitor their attendance, we celebrate with them, but we also get our SEL team involved in getting those students logging in. And it has definitely been beneficial and helpful because they reach out to the families. They try to see what the barriers are for them logging in, and then they try to work with them to help them. Even our SEL team puts incentives in place with those kids to help them log in. Same thing would go with engagement. Our teachers are very good at monitoring attendance, monitoring engagement. They celebrate with those kids, their engagement and their attendance, but they also do a good job at keeping our SEL team, as well as our building administrators, abreast of, I'm sorry, I had to pull my mask down, abreast of, the challenges that they are having, so we can work together as a unit to help those kids. What do we teach? So we teach 90 minutes of ELA. We teach 90 minutes of math, 40 minutes of science and social studies. And then, of course, they have their electives. And then as far as the CCIP goals from my building, we have 3 CCIP goals that I'll be discussing with you today. We have a reading, a math, and a building climate CCIP goal. So when we're looking at our ELA goal, we are putting together a structured literacy approach. And based off that structured literacy approach, we are working on decoding with our kids. We're working on language comprehension and reading comprehension. We are really focusing work on vocabulary. We feel like it's important to build students' vocabulary. And I know that's an initiative that Ms. Willis has been working with to get vocabulary taught across in every subject area. Wait, can we go back one more? We are also integrating ELA, very important, integrating writing across the curriculum in social studies, science, and math. We're introducing those tier 2 vocabulary words to students and those disciplinary literacy instructions. And we're really focusing on content area strategies. As we move into our math CCIP goal, we're wanting to move kids 5% or more. That's both in ELA and in math. So what are we doing? We're really honing in on the conceptual foundations and understanding having kids have the understanding of the conceptual foundations of math before the procedurals. And we're also, we put an emphasis on math practices such as fluency, accuracy, and efficiency. What are we using to measure all of this? Because we talk about the state tests, and yes, that is just one data point that we use in determining the effectiveness of student achievement. But we also use district level curricula or district level assessments as well, such as MAP and iReady, and then our curriculum-based assessments that go along with our Wonders curriculum and our math curriculum. What we look for when we look at MAP data is, what are the projected scores? What does the data mean to us? We look at the learning continuums of our students, because when a student takes a MAP test and they get their results, the teachers and the teams can go in and look at where that student is, and then MAP provides a learning continuum for the teachers to work on that hones in on those specific areas that those students are lacking in. So by doing that, we're able to assess and answer some of these questions that you see up under the MAP data. iReady is another reading diagnostic, and it also has a learning path for students. So teachers can really monitor that learning path and work with those students in small groups. And really those learning paths can really set the tone for where the groups for teachers to have students in. And then of course our curriculum-based assessments. So when speaking of iReady achievement data, I wanted to give you a snapshot of 4th, 5th, and 6th grade. So looking at Ms. Winston's PowerPoint, I put the same thing in mind, which was the tier triangle. I think it's important though for you to understand what that green, orange, and red stands for. So the tier 1 right now, it stands for core instruction. So that's what the instruction that everyone gets. The orange section of there is a targeted intervention. So that means that we have kids in that group that need targeted interventions. And then of course the red is more intensive interventions or individualized interventions. Now, when looking at the triangle, we have a little in green. So we have kids that are doing okay in the tier 1 setting, but we have kids that need targeted interventions. When teachers look at this and they have looked at this in their TBTs, this tells them that, okay, we need to formulate groups with these kids, the targeted groups. And then maybe with the red ones, maybe we need to work one-on-one with them or in a smaller group setting to hone in on the skills that they have deficits in. Sorry. I want to just make mention that the 6th grade, this was their first year taking the reading iReady, and they took it in January. So this was their first year. And it was good data for us because we hadn't taken MAP. The 6th grade hadn't taken MAP. So really there was no data point, no data besides curriculum-based data that they could really go off of. So when they took this test in January, this was really good information for the 6th grade team to sit down, digest, and see what were the needs of the students and what they needed to do to help these students in each tier. This is value-added data. And so I wanted you to see this because I don't want us to forget, and especially me as a new building principal to the building, this information is not to be ignored. Even though it's 2019 data, value-added data, but that was the last time they took a state test. So I really wanted to look at this data and look at it with our staff so that we know where our kids are going and what work we need to do to get them to be more successful. So when you're looking at the ELA scores for 4th, 5th, and 6th, I'm just going to quickly briefly explain to you that the red means that there was let me make sure I just say it right. The red means that there was significant evidence that students made less growth than expected, okay? And then when you start getting into the orange, there's moderate evidence that they made less growth. But then as you start moving along into the green, there's significant evidence that they made more growth than expected. So we want to make sure that we're moving them in the right direction, which is towards the green, okay? And so when we look at the ELA for 4th grade, we have work to do. We know we have work to do. We need to begin to use the item analysis that comes along with our state test, and the item analysis basically tells us where students had their deficits in and what we can do to help them. And again, this is another data point that can inform teachers on, who needs to be in groupings and what skills we're going to work on. And then when we go to math, unfortunately, we got way more work to do because most of our grades are in the red where they're not making the growth that is expected of them. So we need to be using effective instructional strategies to get them to move in the right direction. And then in 5th grade, hey, we are just the bomb in 5th grade science, okay? Because they are in the green, they're making way more growth than what is expected. So what does that tell me is I need to discover what they're doing with science so that we can keep that growth steady. So what are we going to do with this data? Some of the changes that we've made that have resulted in the data. We are definitely doing intervention and extensions for both ELA and math. We are doing math fact fluency. We're doing a lot of spiraling in math because, sometimes we hear a lot from teachers that they're math fact fluencies. They're not fluent in math. Well, we need to spiral that. You need to continue to teach what the standards are, but spiral back and maybe do some fluency practice, maybe in the enrichment and the intervention and enrichment portion of the lesson. We have totally implemented the universal design for learning so that every single student gets their needs met and they're able to demonstrate their understanding through multiple representations. We have implemented data conversations, which we have data conversations in our TBTs. It's a part of the TBT protocol. And another part of the TBT protocol is discussing what effective instructional strategies will work to get these kids to master the skills. Vocabulary acquisition in all content areas, which is one of the things I touched on in a previous slide. Bearcat Wednesday has been awesome for our teachers because this is the time when they can have those small groups with those targeted students and really hone in on the skills that they're finding deficits in. And they're using map data, they're using iReady data to pinpoint those deficits. And then the race strategy in writing. All the teachers across the board are using the race strategy in writing. And the race strategy pretty much is restating the question is the R, A is answering the questions, C is citing evidence, and the E is explaining and extending on it. And when we use the race strategy across the board, the goal is to get students to write across every subject area. So our building goal 3 is our climate and relationships. So this year we had a very exciting thing that happened in February. We had Dinner and a Book. And Dinner and a Book was, it was every Thursday night at 7 o'clock or 6 o'clock. And we highlighted an African-American author. And it was guest readers that read a book to the students. And the good thing is, and I was excited about it, we had parents that joined us and they sat on the couch or they sat at a dinner table and they ate with their children while this book was being read. And then after the book was read, I had the opportunity to ask some questions and just give some suggestions on conversations that they could have with their children about the book that was read. So we got very good positive response. So we will keep that going. And then through the month of February. And then we also again had positive office referral phone calls. Our discipline data. So we had discipline referral data at the end of second quarter. Columbus had 5 office referrals. That was probably the best office referral number I've had in my years of being a principal. 5 office referrals so far. So 4 of those were virtual misconduct referrals. And then one of them was like classroom disruption referral at the beginning of the year. We've had 17 positive office referrals, and our teachers have morning meetings with the students every single morning. And during those morning meetings, the students hear either myself or Mr. Huff, we rotate days with announcements. And our announcements consist of motivational things to say to the students, but it also has some fun and engaging things like we had Black History Bingo. This month we have a cool Women History Month where they do a basketball bracket, and it'll eventually get down to where there's 2 Women History of the Month and the students will vote on who wins that. So up and coming, what are we going to continue to do? We're going to continue to use effective math instructional strategies, which we do. We just started strategies of the month. For both literacy and math. Well, this month is scaffolding, which you could do for both subject areas. We're going to focus on math concepts in small group, especially during Bearcat Wednesdays, math practice standards and fluency. And literacy, we're going to continue to talk vocabulary and just have a literacy instructional strategy of the month, continue working with writing across the curriculum, and have a focus on literacy concepts in small groups in the classroom and outside the classroom on Bearcat Wednesdays. And then I just want to leave you with a little bit of digital art that some of our students did. They were charged to do different things like collages and everything. And I thought I would leave you with a little bit of digital art that was Columbus featured artwork. Thank you so much.
Board members, if anyone has questions? I have a question, Ms. Street.
Yes.
You said 34% and 78%. All right, give me numbers wise.
So it's like 116 students in person.
116.
Mm-hmm. And about 220 online.
Thank you. Thank you.
No problem.
I have one question.
Yes.
My question is, you mentioned that attendance was a big problem. Is it a specific grade level or is it just across all grades?
Well, I wouldn't say it's a big problem. We have a group of students that we know are having trouble logging in or engaging. And right now our SEL teams are working on that, working with that family and with that student. Like they're putting incentives in place for them. And we do have attendance meetings that we do with them if they've met the threshold. So that's one good way that we could provide interventions to the families or suggestions to the families to get them to log in. A lot of times though, it is computer problems. They may have internet or computer problems. So we have been very good at getting them another computer or having them come, and then our tech guy will fix whatever the problem is, and then they're back online.
That turnaround time pretty quickly.
Yeah, yes, it is. Or sometimes I might have to send an email, but it gets resolved in a timely fashion.
I mean, with the parents too, reporting it and of course,
Well,
picking up another computer.
Yes, but I'm going to be honest, Ms. Boynton, we usually don't find out about the problem until there's an attendance meeting. So when there's an attendance meeting, then we find out that, okay, my child has been having computer issues or my internet has been going down or something like that. And then that's when we jump in and help them get the necessary things they need so that their student is logged on.
I'm glad to hear that you haven't been spending all of your time with referrals being sent to your office. That's one good thing. You have a lot of other things to deal with, and it sounds like the teachers are getting more accountable for in their classroom managements or whatever's taking place, and that's important. That whatever disciplinary action is needed, they should be able to handle that within their own classroom. Because, of course, they didn't do it to you, they did it to them, and they need to handle those things so it doesn't happen again.
Yes.
So I'm glad to hear that.
Yeah, shout out to the staff because they are excellent with handling situations in the virtual world as well as face-to-face. I mean, we have not had very many face-to-face disciplinary actions, but in the virtual world, they know how to adapt that PBIS to the virtual setting, classroom setting. So shout out to them for that.
Thank you.
Any other questions? Thank you. It was very nice. You did an excellent job for your first time in front of us.
Good job.
Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Good job.
All right. Dr. Sullivan, we are going to go into executive session. I need a motion to go into executive session. My mic. I need a motion to go into executive session.
Madam
Right
President,
on
if
the
you would
top.
please state the reason for executive session for the record. If you would please state the reason we are.
Yes.
entering into executive.
We're going into executive session to consider the appointment, employment, dismissal, discipline, promotion, demotion, or compensation of a public employee.
Second.
Okay, it's been properly moved by Mrs. Boynton, second by Mr. Stevens. Any questions? Hearing none, roll call, please.
Mr. Tench,
Aye.
Mr. Stevens,
Aye.
Mr. Kennedy. Aye. Mrs. Patterson,
Aye.
Mrs. Boynton.
Aye.
5-0. Thank you, board. Thank you again, Ms. Street and Mrs. Winston for your presentations.